Hi everyone, today I will be going through coordination and responses. This is part 2, so if you have not seen the part 1, then please make sure to check it out. I have the link in my description box, or you can just tap on my channel and look for the video. Now in the part 2, we will be looking into hormones, okay? So now, hormones are basically chemical substances produced by a gland and carried by the blood, which alters the activity of one or more specific target organs. Okay, so now the job of hormone is basically to target a specific organ. So let's say you have a hormone is released to be used on ovaries. So that hormone is only gonna affect the ovaries. It's not gonna affect any other part of your body. Okay, because it is just meant to be targeting that one specific organ. That's how hormones work. Another thing to remember is that they are a chemical substance. Previously we learned about impulses. Now impulses are basically electrical signals which are sent to your brain, but hormones are chemical substances. Okay, they are not signals. Okay, and they're used to be altering the activity of a specific organ. Okay, and another thing to remember is hormones are carried by in the blood. Previously, we learned about impulses. Okay, now we should know that impulses are carried in the nerves. But unlike impulses, hormones are carried by the blood. Okay. Also, you should also memorize this definition as it is in the syllabus. So next is your endocrine glands. So we have 4 types of endocrine glands. Now before I go into that, let me tell you what endocrine glands are. So endocrine glands are glands which produce hormones, okay? They produce hormones. Okay, that's what endocrine glands are. Okay, they're glands which produce hormones. So we have 4 types of endocrine glands here. So the first is pancreas. Now pancreas releases insulin and glucagon. Okay, now insulin is basically released when your blood glucose level is high. Okay, blood glucose level, I'll label it as BGL. Okay, so when your blood glucose level is high, it will decrease the blood glucose level to a normal amount, a healthy amount. So let's say in one day you eat a lot of sweet things. Now your blood glucose level is going to increase high. Okay, it's going to be really high, and it will be too unhealthy for your body. So what your body will do, what your pancreas will do, is it would release insulin, okay, which will decrease your blood glucose level to a healthy amount. And glucagon will do the opposite. So when your blood glucose level is less, it's gonna increase it. So let's say one day you don't eat anything at all, so your blood glucose level will decrease a lot. So your pancreas will release glucagon, which will increase your blood glucose level. Okay, now next is testes, which will produce testosterone. This is a reproductive hormone, okay, which works on your reproductive organs, and this is mostly in male. Okay, next we have adrenal glands, okay, which produces adrenaline. So adrenaline is a hormone which is produced in a fight or flight situation. I will be going through on that more later, so for now I will ignore that. And next we have ovaries, which will release a hormone called estrogen. This is also a reproductive hormone which will work on your reproductive organs, and this is only in female. Okay, now let's look into adrenaline. So adrenaline, as I said previously, it's a hormone which is secreted in fight or flight situations. Now for those who don't know what a fight or flight situation is, so basically it's just a situation where you're in danger and you have to save yourself, when you have the urge to save your life. Okay, when you're in a life-threatening situation, mostly that's what a fight or flight situation is. Okay, now what adrenaline does, it's basically it provides oxygen to your entire body to give you more strength to deal with that certain situation. Now, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say, God forbid, you get into a car accident. Now, when you get into a car accident, let's say something heavy falls on you. And let's assume that you're a weak person. You don't go to gym, you don't eat well at all. You're really weak, okay? So, in a normal situation, you won't be able to even carry your luggage, okay? Like a 40-kilo luggage. You won't even be able to carry that, okay? But when you're in a situation like in an accident and something heavy falls on you, you will suddenly out of nowhere have strength to actually carry that heavy object to save yourself from suffocating or anything like that. Okay? Now, the reason you have that strength is because of this hormone called adrenaline. Okay? That's the whole purpose of adrenaline. It's basically to provide you with strength. Okay? Provide you with strength. Okay, strength or energy, you can say. Okay, to save yourself. Okay, like for example, at some situations, let's say you're in a forest and you see a wild animal like a tiger, let's say, and obviously you would be scared and you would know that your life is in danger. So the first thing you will do is run away, and even for that your adrenaline will be produced so that you will have more energy, more stamina to run a long distance. Okay, so that's how adrenaline works. Now, let's look into the effects of adrenaline. Okay, the first one is increased heart rate, and then increased breathing rate, and then pupils dilate. Now, the reason why your heart rate and your breathing rate will increase is because adrenaline's job is to basically provide you with more good supply of oxygen. Okay, so if your heart rate increases, if your heart beats faster, your blood will supply your body with more oxygen quicker. So if your breathing rate increases, you will inhale more oxygen and you will release more carbon dioxide as your waste product more quicker. Okay, so the purpose of that is to supply sufficient amount of blood to body. Okay, so that's your whole purpose of this. And then your pupils will dilate. Now, for those who don't know what dilation means, okay, so dilation is basically increase in size of your pupil. Okay, now let's say this over here is your eye, and in normal situation your eye pupil is very small, okay, but during fight or flight situation your eye will have a really big pupil. Now the reason is so that more light reaches your retina, so that your vision is more clear. Okay, now next is effects of metabolic activity. So how does adrenaline affect the metabolic activity? Now the first thing obviously that's going to happen in a fight or flight situation is your adrenal gland is going to release adrenaline. Okay, it's going to release adrenaline, and what your adrenaline will do is that it will make your liver convert your stored glycogen into glucose quicker. Okay, because right now you're in danger, you're in a lot of danger, and you need a lot of energy to face that danger, so you will require more glucose. In my video, in my biological molecules video, I did mention that glucose is basically what provides us with energy. Okay, so when we have less amount of glucose, we have very less energy. Okay, now liver has something called glycogen. Okay, they store glycogen. Okay, now this glycogen is basically broken down into glucose. Now what adrenaline does, it makes that happen more quicker. Okay, so glycogen converts into glucose, okay, faster because of adrenaline. All right, now this glucose obviously it's gonna go into your blood, and you will have a higher blood glucose concentration. Okay, now this will provide you with energy for more respiration. Now what is respiration? Respiration is basically how do I explain this? Respiration is basically like more inhaling and exhaling. Okay, more inhaling oxygen, more exhaling carbon dioxide, more use of energy. Okay, that's what respiration is. It's like use of energy. Okay, so I will go through this again. Your adrenal gland release adrenaline, which will make the liver break down stored glycogen into glucose faster, and then you will have a higher blood glucose level, which will provide you with energy for respiration, meaning that your energy will be used up more faster, and you would have a good supply of oxygen in your body. Okay, now next is the comparison of nervous control and hormonal control. Now, the nervous control is a transmission of electrical impulses. Okay, but the hormonal control is a transmission of chemicals. Okay, and I think I've mentioned that previously just now in the starting. Okay, so the nervous control is electrical impulses, hormonal control is chemicals. Second, its transmission is in nerves, and the hormonal transmission is in blood. Third, it is a rapid transmission, meaning that it happens quickly. Your signals, your information carried by the signals are transported very quickly, rapidly, okay? But for hormonal control, it happens slowly and it takes time. Okay? Fourth, impulse is sent directly to target organs. Hormone dispersed throughout the body. Okay, so the impulse will directly target your organ. For example, if you're touching something hot, so your impulse is going to basically target your hand muscle, okay, your arm muscle, to move away your hand, okay? It's going to do that very quickly. But your hormone, it's going to disperse throughout your body, but it's only going to act on the organ it needs to act. Okay, so it's going to be all around your body, but it's only going to act in the organ it wants to act. Okay, and fifth, nervous control has a short-term effect and hormonal control has a long-term effect, meaning that, for example, again, if you touch something hot, you will remove away your hand and then that's it, you're done. Okay, your signals are done, okay, the effects are done, it's finished quickly. Okay, but hormonal control, it's gonna work, it's gonna stay there for a long period of time. Okay, so next let's look into something called homeostasis. Now homeostasis is just basically the maintenance of a constant internal environment. So now obviously, when we have external problems, our nervous system helps us with that. When a specific part of our body requires something, we have our hormones doing that. But what about internal environment? Environment which we wouldn't realize externally. Okay, something that only our body will notice. Now, homeostasis is basically maintenance of that environment, okay, of an internal environment. Okay, so now one example is basically decreasing the blood glucose level. Now previously we learned that the hormone helps us with that. Okay, a hormone called insulin helps us with that. So now that hormone is also part of homeostasis. Okay, now let's say you eat something very sweet, okay, you ingest it, okay, your blood glucose level is going to increase, your insulin is going to act, and your blood glucose level will be restored. Now that's really simple, right? Now let's look into this thing called negative feedback. Okay, so negative feedback, over here you have 2 points about it. So change in a parameter is co-undirected, and value of parameter returns to the set point. Now this may seem like very confusing words, but I will explain to you what it means. Now over here, okay, this thing you see over here, this is your parameter. Okay, and this thing over here is your set point. Now let's say your blood glucose level, which is the healthy amount, is 6 or 7. Okay, Now, this is your set point, meaning that this is your original point, this is your point that has to be like the normal healthy point, okay? And this over here is in the case when your blood glucose level decreases a lot to like 4, 3, 4, something like that. And this is in the case if your blood glucose level increases a lot to like 9, 10, and etc. Okay? Now, when your blood glucose level will increase from this point, okay, your parameter will do the opposite, okay, meaning that if it goes this way, okay, if your blood glucose level increases this way, your parameter will co-interact it and bring it to this side. Okay, so co-interact means doing the opposite, okay, going the opposite way. Okay, and over here it says value of parameter returns to the set point. So once it goes here and it's co-interacted, it's going to return to your set point. Okay, this is part where people are confused with, which is negative feedback, but it's really just as simple. Okay, so now when blood glucose level increases, your hormone insulin will be released, okay, which will convert glucose to glycogen. Okay, so as I mentioned before, liver has something called stored glycogen. So when you have too much glucose, right, your insulin, okay, will make the liver convert the glucose into glycogen, so that when your blood glucose level decreases a lot, your glycogen can be converted into glucose. Okay, it's just storing it for you in case you need it. Okay, so once the insulin acts, it's gonna go back to its normal point. Okay, now let's say your blood glucose level decreases too much, your glucagon will act and convert glycogen into glucose and bring you back to your set point. Okay, that's it. Now let's say your pancreas is not producing insulin. Let's say your pancreas just stops or produces very little insulin. What's gonna happen? Well, in that case you will have diabetes, okay, which is type 1 diabetes. Okay, now in this case what happens is that when you eat something sweet in a big amount, your insulin will not be produced, meaning that your blood glucose level will not go back to its original point fast enough, which means it's going to be really unhealthy for you and it's going to have a negative impact on your body. Okay, so yeah, it won't be able to regulate your blood glucose level and it will cause a problem. Okay, and it is untreatable, meaning that it does not have a permanent treatment, but it has some temporary treatments. Now the temporary treatment is monitoring your blood glucose concentration, meaning that monitoring your food intake, monitoring what food makes your blood glucose level increase, and and just monitor it. Okay, second is injecting insulin if it's necessary. Some people, they have insulin in them, okay, but it's very little, okay, it's produced very little, but some of them, no insulin is produced, and in that case you have to inject insulin. Okay, third is consuming a healthy balanced diet. Okay, so you can hire a dietitian if you can, and they can help you have a balanced diet which will not affect your health too much. And fourth is exercising regularly. Now the science behind that is because when you're exercising, right, you're using more glucose. Why? Because glucose produces energy. Okay, energy. So when you're exercising, when you lack energy, when your energy is decreasing, your body will use your glucose, okay, to convert it into energy used in respiration. Okay, which will decrease your blood glucose level. So that's why if you have diabetes and you eat, and let's say you're outside, you're shopping, for example, this is something that happens to my mom, by the way. Okay, she's a diabetes patient, and even my dad. So when, let's say, one day we're in a mall, okay, and we're shopping around, we're walking around the entire day, and in that day she's having ice cream, she's having cake, she eats a lot, let's say she's having candies, she's having cold drinks, sodas. And in the end of the day, when she goes home, she checks her blood glucose level and it's very less. And she's just surprised, like, how is that happening? The reason it's happening is because you moved out a lot. You moved a lot. You used all of your energy, okay? Because you've been walking since the day until night. So even though your blood glucose level increased, since you were walking a lot, you needed more energy. So your body used energy from your glucose concentration in your body. That's why her blood concentration was very less. So now next is the temperature control mechanism. So there's a lot of ways in our body reacts in certain temperatures, like when we're hot, we're sweating, when we're cold, we're shivering, okay? So these two are basically mechanisms of how to control our internal temperature, okay? Because when your temperature increases a lot, it can denature your enzymes, which can even cause death, okay? And when your internal body temperature is too low, it can cause your enzymes to stop working, which can also cause death, okay? This is why you have to control your internal temperature. So sweating in a hot situation basically helps cool down our skin, okay? Because our sweat evaporates from our body and it kind of decreases the temperature of our body, okay? And shivering also helps with reducing the cold feeling. Third is insulation, okay? So the fatty tissue under our skin insulates, okay? Helps us feel less cold. And the skin hair also helps, okay? Now the skin hair in normal situation, it's like this, okay, when we're not feeling cold. But when we're feeling cold, the hair stands upright like this, okay? It's because it's trapping air, okay? It's trapping air molecules so that we feel less cold, okay? Now next is adjusting diameter of blood vessels. So in a hot environment, it goes through something called vasodilation, which will make your arterioles increase blood flow to your skin capillaries, okay? And in cold environment, you will go through vasoconstriction, which is when the arterioles will decrease blood flow to skin capillaries, okay? So that's how it is like. So you would have something like this, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry if I'm wrong because I don't really remember much, okay? I mean, I remember, but I can't recall the diagram, okay? So this would be your arteriole, okay? This would be your venule, I think, and this would be your shunt vessel. Now shunt vessel basically connects your arterioles to venule, okay? So in a hot environment, this part would be dilated, meaning that it will be more open, okay? This is how it will be like, okay? You would have a more dilation, you would have a more diameter, okay? But in vasoconstriction, you would have a smaller circle, okay? A smaller gap, which will reduce the blood flow to your skin capillaries, okay? So again, you should know that vasodilation is only for hot environment and vasoconstriction is only for the cold environment. So next, let's look into tropic responses. This is also actually part of hormones. So yeah. So let's look into the first thing, which is called phototropism. It's a response in which parts of a plant grows towards or away from the direction of light source. So now, for example, okay, I will explain to you after this. Let's just go through a definition right now. So next is the gravitropism. Okay, it's a response in which plants grow towards or away from gravity. Now, phototropism occurs when light is involved, and gravitropism occurs when gravity is involved. So let's look into something called auxin. Now, auxin is a hormone, okay? It's a hormone inside plants. Okay, they are made in the shoot tip. Okay, so this is your shoot tip. This is where they are made. Okay, and they diffuse through the plant from the shoot tip. So it's gonna go from here downwards. Okay, it's gonna diffuse from the tip to everywhere. It will stimulate cell elongation. I will go through that later. And auxins are equally distributed to respond to light and gravity. So this diagram is an example of phototropism. Now, one thing to know is that auxins are very sensitive to light. So whenever let's say this is auxins, okay, and this is your sunlight. So whenever they are facing sunlight, they will move away from sun, like over here. Okay, they don't want to be facing the sun. Okay, they're always going to avoid the sun because they're sensitive, and long exposure can kill auxins. Okay, so that's how they work. So when the sun over here is on top, okay, the auxins are going to be distributed evenly over here and over here, which will cause the plant, okay, I'll draw a plant over here. It will cause the plant to be upright like this. Okay, but let's say your sun is over here, your auxins will be distributed over here. Okay, meaning that there's higher mass of auxins over here, so it's going to be bent towards this side. Okay, so this is how your plant will look like. Why? Because you have more auxins over here. You have a higher mass of it. It's like the auxins are like pushing the plant to that side. Okay, if that makes sense. And yeah, so again, if the sun was at this side, let's say this side, then your plant would be moving this side. Okay, I know my drawing is really horrible, but please bear with me. Okay, so that's how it is like. Now, cell elongation is basically when cells are elongated, like in one side. Okay, that's what elongation is. And in this case, when the sun is at top, they're equally distributed. Okay, they're equally elongated. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this chapter. Okay, we have finished it. Any questions you can ask me in the comment section, and I will go through this once more to help you summarize all this. So hormone is a chemical substance produced by a gland, carried by the blood, which alters specific target organs. You should always remember the endocrine glands and the type of them and what they release, and also the purpose of each and every one of the hormone. Okay, the role of the hormones, especially adrenaline, okay, which is released in fight or flight situation. Always remember this as well. Okay, and more about homeostasis, about negative feedback. Co-interacted is basically going the opposite way to return to your set point, which is the healthy normal amount. And then type 1 diabetes, the treatment of it, and the temperature control mechanism. You should always know about the vasodilation and vasoconstriction, and about tropic responses. Oh, hold on, I forgot to go through gravitropism. So hopefully you guys are still with me. So gravitropism is basically the same thing, but instead it's with gravity. So for example, if you lay down your plant like this, okay, let's say, hold on, let me draw it properly. Okay, like that. Let's say you lay it down horizontally. Now what will happen is that your auxins will be over here. Okay, they will be over here. So now if you keep your plant that way and it continues growing, it's gonna go upwards. Okay, it's gonna grow upwards. All right, so that's how basically it works. Because there's auxins over here, so there's higher mass. Again, as I said, auxins are pushing the plant to that side. So the newer plants will just grow, the newer growth will just grow upwards instead of going downwards, because most of the auxins are over here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Okay, and I just want you to remember what phototropism and gravitropism mean, and I want you to remember all this auxin information over here. Okay, And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, anything that you think I did not go through, you can ask me in the comments. And if you liked my way of teaching, I am available for providing online tuition, so you can email me. I have my email in the description box, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And that's pretty much it. If you like my video, please like, and if you liked my content,